Welcome again to the That's My Dad podcast. I'm Scott Hilton, your host. We're here trying to inspire young fathers to become great dads. We're trying to break cycles of generational fatherlessness. And part of the way we do that is we bring guys in who are what I call script flippers, guys who made a decision that they were going to do things right, regardless of how their life may have been. They decided, hey, you know what, I can change this. And today we have an old friend of mine who I think is a script flipper, James Anderson. Welcome to the podcast, James.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to roll right in to your story because I don't want to waste any time getting to that. It's a powerful story. Tell us about your childhood and your family growing up.
Growing up, I was raised primarily by my mom. She did what she could. Growing up, she tried her best to do what she could for us, make sure we had the best of things at times, and so it obviously it worked out. I'm here, so there was that, and then her and Dad, they divorced when I was probably about I was 10, and when they got a divorce, it was just like one of those things like, okay, now what? It hurt, but it was just like, I remember that was the only feeling I got from it.
Sort of just a numb feeling.
Yeah. It was odd, and it was just like, this is not, it's not making any sense. It didn't make sense to me then.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, a few years after that, now granted, Mom and Dad both were still in the picture. It wasn't like I was absentee from any one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Mom get in a big fight when I was 15, and I wound up having to leave.
They made you leave home?
Well, Mom.
Okay.
We lived 45 minutes from Dad. And so she said, you're going to have to go live with your dad. I was like, okay. So I went and moved in with my dad. And ever since then, he was trying his best to do what he could, but there was a lot left on the table that shouldn't have been left on the table. I got into a lot of trouble, a whole mess of trouble. I was not at all a good kid.
When you say you got into trouble, kind of
it was
give us a clue.
Vandalizing, sexual immorality, if you will, just trouble, fighting, smoking, drugs, all of it.
The whole thing.
So
you were in some fairly serious trouble as a teenager.
Yeah.
Take me back to growing up you spent the first 5 years with your parents together. You spent the next maybe 10 years with,
well, actually,
with your
it's,
mom.
from the time I was born on up to about 10, I had Mom and Dad in the picture.
Okay. Was that a good situation for you? Do you have good memories of that, those first parts?
Oddly enough, not really. But let me rephrase that. I don't want to say that they were terrible. They weren't bad. They could have been better.
Okay.
Anything could be better, but it was just overall, I could say that it wasn't horrible.
Okay. So how did that? So then at 10 years old, they divorced.
Yeah.
And
that's when they finalized it, because they were separated there actually for quite a while before that.
Okay, and you lived with your mom.
Yeah.
Initially, and then when you were 15, you went to live with your dad. What was your relationship with your dad like? Was it healthy? Was it just you got by, or what would you change about it? What was good about it?
I'll put it like this. Anytime I had problems, I could call him, and he would come.
Okay.
So
he was there for you.
Yes and no. Yes, in the regards of that, anytime I could call him, he was there. I guess no would be in the regards of him not being there when he should have been.
Somehow along the way, you figured out how to be a better dad to your kids than what you felt like your dad was to you. And that came largely in terms of being attentive to them and not just being there for them, but pursuing them and
Right.
and being an active father in their life. So what was it that you think kind of changed your attitude and changed the way? Did you find mentors, or was there a point in time where you said, hey, I'm going to be a better dad, or I'm going to change the way this is going, or how did that whole thing evolve?
I was coming home from sparring class because, again, I got back into martial arts, trying to get in shape. Took a left-hand turn on US 29 going through Lilburn, Georgia. I had a heavy foot, man. By the time I was 18, I had 9 speeding tickets and one improper backing, 2 no proofs of insurance. And you only have your license for 2 years, you know, and I'm 18 and I have all this. Cop pulls me over and had a knife in my hand when he came up, but it wasn't for what you think it was for. The knife, I did pull it down out of my visor where my insurance papers were, my registration was. I pulled it down, took my insurance papers and all that, switched hands with it, but I still kept the knife in my hand when the cop came up to the window.
Oh.
Wasn't even paying attention to it. Next thing you know, my window was rolled down. Drop the knife, put your hands out the window. Yeah, I was sitting here looking down the barrel of a 9mm. I was like, oh, crap. Of course, I didn't say that, but
Yeah.
threw it over to the side, hands went out the window. So that caught me an aggravated assault on the cop charge.
Which is a permanent on your record.
Yeah, we know about that now. It stays with you no matter how long it's been, unless it gets expunged.
And then you went to jail.
Went to jail that night. I was sitting there before court. I'm sitting here looking at 55 consecutive years in prison. I'm 18.
55 years.
Yeah, consecutive. If they run them all consecutive. Chances are I was a first-time offender legally.
Yeah.
And it started weighing on me heavy. You know, I'm sitting here, I'm 18 years old. I could be locked away for 55 years. And that's when stuff started changing, like quick.
So that's when you started thinking, I got to make some changes.
Yes, sir.
I got to do something different.
Yeah.
What happened with that situation?
I wound up getting what they call a 5-do-1. Basically, I'm sentenced to 5 years, but I'm only required to serve 1 year, and I do the rest on paper. Do the rest on probation.
Yeah. So you had to do a year in jail?
You wind up having to do a year in jail. I didn't have to go down the road, as it's called, because I was, at that time when I got sentenced, I think I had 5 months left of my sentence, because all my time up until that point of sentencing, I'd already done 7 months.
So you're sitting in jail for 7 months waiting to go to
waiting to figure out what's going to happen.
See what's going to happen.
Yeah. And during the meantime, when I got arrested that night going home from sparring classes, I'm on my way home to see my girlfriend, my wife now. And that was the end of that chapter of my life.
So you finally, you're in jail, you make a decision.
Yeah.
When I get out of here, things are going to be different. What did you have to do to implement that decision? What kind of steps? Let's take me forward to getting to the day you got out.
Making different decisions is like, okay, I can't do anything illegal anymore because I actually get in trouble for that.
So you had something hanging over your head.
Oh, yeah, now there's that. Yeah. But I'm talking about going forward. It's like, okay, I can't keep doing what got me put in jail. I can't keep running like that. If I do, I'm going to wind up dead. Yep.
So you, how old were you when your first son was born?
21.
First child was born?
Yeah, 21.
Okay. Did you kind of hold things together from that point forward? Or
No,
were there...
actually, no. Sadly, it got worse.
Really?
Yeah, for me. Well, and for my wife, too. I wasn't faithful. And it eventually wound up leading to our divorce. Okay? She was pregnant. My wife was pregnant. And we had our oldest son there. And we wound up being separated for too long. But that's why I say take divorce off the table.
Take divorce off the table.
And you don't wind up like that.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that process. Did you go through divorce?
Yeah, we actually wound up going through divorce. And the woman, quote unquote, that I left my wife for wound up not working out. And so I was miserable again. And it took a lot for us to wind up getting back together. We eventually did, but we actually went through a divorce. It's in court records. But afterwards, we decided to make a go of it. This is 99. I guess we're trying to make things work.
At what point in your life did you decide to stay clean from substances?
It's kind of a weird one. I quit smoking weed just because I knew where it went to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I know what it leads to. I didn't quit it because I didn't like it. I just knew where it led to. It was pointless. That's with the marijuana. With the beer and the alcohol, I bought a 6-pack of beer one time. I used to like to cook with it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I also used to love to drink it. I was a teetotaler though. That's where you drink basically into oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
That 6-pack of beer actually lasted 6 months. And it's just one of those things to where I was just like, I cooked with it and drank the rest of that one beer, and the rest of it had 5 of them left, was still in the bottle in the fridge, threw them away.
So you just had to make a decision.
I did.
I'm going to turn things around. What part did we want to get to your testimony, as we call it in churches, but what part did that play? Let's roll into that for just a little bit.
So if you run I-59 down to 20 in Birmingham, you run 20 west all the way out. Stay on 20 until you get into Texas. You get off at 146, exit 146. That's also Highway 146. There's a truck stop there. All right. I get out, I'm going in, and at that time, I think I'm 47-ish miles from my destination, so I got plenty good time. I go out, and I check at the time, it was a flip phone I had, but I was sitting there looking at the phone, and didn't have any service, and I stepped back out for a second. I ran into a friend of mine that's here in Gadsden.
From your hometown?
Yeah.
And you're 500 miles from home?
No. 1,000
miles from home. You run into somebody from your hometown.
I asked him, and his name's Randall. I asked him, so Randall, man, what's going on? He says, Jesus, let's go in and grab a cup of coffee and let me tell you about him. I'm like, okay.
Did you think like, oh no, here we go?
yeah, actually that's kind of more along the lines. But I went in there and and he told me a little bit about Jesus and stuff, and then we just got caught up. But it was right then I didn't decide to give my life over to Christ. It was more of a gradual.
And what year was that?
2002.
So you committed to follow Christ 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you've been faithful for 20 years.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's not an unusual response. It's not like, and that's something we need to tell those young guys out there.
Exactly.
You're going to mess up sometime.
Yeah.
It's not like James Anderson's lived a perfect life. It's not like he started going to church and everything's woohoo, everything's great.
No.
There's still some struggles, weren't there?
Yeah. Oh, there is.
Do you still have to every day make a decision?
Yes. It is a conscious effort. You do make a conscious effort as to whatever you're going to do. I mean, to do wrong is easy.
So let's move into you being a parent.
Oh, boy. Okay, bring it.
Tell me about your boys.
Oh. Where do you want me to start, man? I mean,
just wherever you want to start. I know you're proud of them. Tell me.
Yeah.
Brag on them a little bit.
Okay. Start with the oldest one. He was a brat growing up. I ain't gonna lie, boy, you know it. But I'm glad. I'm glad he's in my life. I wish it would have been easier growing up, but it wasn't. That was just him. That was just our relationship.
Okay. So he went through some of the early struggles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 2, Bryce. He was a lot easier. I don't know why. He of all of them, he was our easy one. At least for me anyway. I don't get it. All I know is
personality.
That's just the way he is. Last one, Eric. He's combination of the first 2, and it was just he could aggravate the snot out of me. But man, the amount of love I have for that boy is just, But like I said, we had a lot of struggles growing up, but I hope that we did right to where they know how to do right with their kids.
So, James, I want to give you a chance to address your dad.
Okay.
Tell him anything you want to tell him. Look into that camera right there. This is your shot.
Dad, I know our relationship hasn't always been great, but for the good times we had, thank you. I know life was hard on you, but I thank you for the opportunities you gave me. One of the things that my dad did teach me was carpentry to a degree. He taught me how to work construction. And so guess what I do now when I'm not driving a truck? Construction. It's a backup to provide for my family. And just overall, any time now, I can still call you Dad, and we can talk about whatever. Thank you. I love you.
We want to share something with you. One of your boys wrote a letter for you. And I'm going to try to read it to you. It says, my father didn't tell me how to live. He lived and let me watch him do it. Clarence Kelland. And here's what your son said. It makes me feel good to know that even when we don't talk as much as I'd like to, I can get answers I want about anything by looking at the way you live your life. I don't have to have a full story, but I remember multiple times where you helped other people, homeless, broken down on the side of the road, or just needing a hug. And I'm glad to say I've tried to do the same when it comes to helping people. There was one time when I was getting gas and I noticed a guy asking for change so he could put enough gas in his car to get to work. After thinking about how you would handle it, I did the only obvious thing to do, and I filled the guy's gas tank. I love you, Dad, your youngest son. We also have a video we'd like to share with you.
Oh, boy.
I am Dad's oldest son, Michael. And the thing I like best about my dad is how hard-working he is, how loving he is for his family, his willingness to provide and do whatever it takes to put a roof over our head, feed us, clothe us, make sure we have everything we need. He's always led by example, and he's every bit of the man I wish to be when I have a family of my own. To speak more on that, my favorite story about Dad is we didn't always have the best vehicle situation growing up, and he would let Mom take the car to work, and this man would walk to work a few miles. It's a few miles to work, and he was a truck driver, so sometimes before the sun was up, real early in the morning, my dad would be walking to work to get there and provide for us. And he's been a big inspiration to me, and I'm sure both my brothers, my middle brother Bryce, my youngest brother Eric, growing up, he's raised us to be great men. Dad, I want to thank you for being the man you are today, for how you've raised me and my brothers, how you've taught us right from wrong, how you've always done your best to provide for us. I love you, Dad. Thank you for all that you do.
And then finally, Julie, your wife, wrote this about you. James always wanted better for his children. We had so many obstacles to overcome, especially once we were so young when we had our kids. I'm proud of James. He's always worked very hard to provide for us. I love that he has a special connection to each one of our kids, but all in a different way. Whether it's riding motorcycles, cooking, or making something, he'll go all out. I want to thank you, James. Thank James for all he does now and did before for our kids and me. I love him more now, especially after 32 years. Thanks for the opportunity to show how special he is. There's more.
Ruin a shirt.
You know, James, you've mentored a lot of kids.
Yeah.
You've reached out to kids who you weren't their biological father. And turns out that one of those has sent a little letter here for you. It's your favorite niece. Thank you for stepping up and becoming my dad. You've taught me so much growing up in my early teen years. I'll forever be thankful for the way my life turned out to be. If I had never gotten the chance to grow up with you, Julie, and the boys, my life would be completely different now. You're a strong, brave, courageous, and outgoing person. You and I have always had that funny sense of humor with each other. And if we didn't, then you'd know something wasn't right. Mm-hmm. You're the best dad, uncle I've ever had. And I'll forever cherish you. Thank you for being you. Your favorite niece. Finally, my dad was one of my first introductions to music. Yeah. I remember him teaching me some beginning chords on the guitar when I was young, even before I got into playing cello. We learned a few basic songs on guitar and continued learning new things on and off throughout the years. Now music is an extremely prominent part of my life. I have my dad to thank for that. He helped foster a spark that I had for music in the very early stages. And I'm not sure what I'd be doing in my life right now had I not chosen to stick with music. Another thing I want to thank my dad for is the example of hard work. There are many times when we were younger that Dad wasn't home as much because he was out on the road. We missed him during those times, but we all knew he was out there. Dad being gone on the road meant he was working to provide us with a life to enjoy. We knew he sacrificed time at home so that my brothers and I could do the activities we wanted to do, so we could pay the bills and afford the groceries for 3 growing boys. He also showed us examples of hard work at home. There was always a project to get done at the house, and Dad would make us do a lot of work on some of those projects, maybe not so much as we thought at the time. We may not have enjoyed doing the work at the time, sweating, digging, and building, but I now see the benefit of doing those home projects. Dad taught me a lot of what I know about basic woodworking, making things with my hands, fixing things around the house instead of having to pay someone. Doing work on those projects growing up was always a pain to me. I couldn't really see the point, but I see the point now. I can do work on my own home and feel proud of all that I'm accomplishing. These are just a couple of things I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for my dad and the example he set for us boys. Dad, I love you. So, James, how does it feel to have came out of the situation you came out of and to know that you made a choice at some point?
Yeah.
and to hear the respect and love you have from your three boys, your wife, and from your niece. What's that like to you?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Is it worth it?
Yeah. That is something that, man, there's Scott, we could go on and on about the life lessons we've learned, right? It is worth it in the end. Staying married is worth it in the end. My relationship with my wife is the example that is going to hopefully lead my kids to do the same thing. Get married, stay married, be a loving husband to your wife, be a good dad if you can at all possible, you know.
Be a provider.
Be a provider. Be a hard worker. Get out there, get after it, guys.
Set the example.
Yep.
Well, you're what we call a script flipper.
Yeah.
And congratulations on where you've come. You know, you see old James, truck driver with that beard, and he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in and sharing your story. And I think it's going to inspire.
Yeah, I hope so.
A lot of young guys. Thanks. That'll conclude this episode of the That's My Dad podcast, where we're inspiring fathers to be great dads. We're breaking cycles of generational fatherlessness. We'll see you next week with another great story.